Good afternoon, YouTube modeling community. I'm going to do a quick product review here. I have to apologize for the condition of my workbench. I have things on here that's been here almost a month that I started doing stuff with, and you'll hear about that in another video. But the product review I'm doing is on a DJ5. You know, the old mail carrier Jeep. I've got me a resin of this. It's really cool. I'll tell you who made it and all that as I'm showing it to you and everything. And I hope you enjoy it. It's a very different subject, and it's kind of a Mopar if you consider it was made by the AMC Corporation, you know. But it is cool. How many Postal Jeep model kits do you see floating around at the shows and stuff, you know? And come to think of it, who really cares about a Postal Jeep besides me? I just think they're cool. You know, I remember them when I was a kid. And starting this video again, or whatever, my memory card filled up. I didn't think I could already had 7 hours worth of HD video on this camera, but I guess I did, so I had to empty it out. Anyway, to leave off where I was, I mentioned that, you know, talking about this Postal Jeep, and when I was a kid growing up, seeing them out on the rural roads and in town and all that, they were always cool, and they all made this specific engine noise and exhaust note, and you could hear them coming a couple blocks away, and you knew the mailman was coming, and you could run over there and wait for him to show up. You know, they were just always the neatest contraptions out there, you know. You know, I do have a fondness for them, I guess. And you know, there's been a time in my life I had the opportunity to buy a couple of them at the same time, but didn't have the money, and they were way up in Ohio, and to get them down to where I live would have been a real hoot. But who knows, maybe one day I'll come across a really decent Postal Jeep and a real one, and you know, mess around with it. But more than likely that won't happen, so I'll just play around with model cars and this old resin kit, and maybe this year I'll get to it, and maybe I won't, but it is worth showing you guys this this resin kit of a DJ5. It's really neat. Okay, so what I have here again is I'm guessing it's a 1978 or 79 or somewhere in there. I've actually been having a hard time finding information on Jeeps and you know, how to distinguish the years and things. And one of the ways I figured it out is by, you know, the position of the rear lights and the markers and the you know, the gas opening here. So I'm guessing it's somewhere around the 76. But yeah, this is the body. It's a pretty good body, and it's very smooth. It's almost like it's made from plastic rather than a resin, you know. You could tell it's a resin when you look inside and see a few of the little pock marks, which is no big deal. But this is a good example of the newer style resins that's coming out. And before I forget, this Jeep was actually made by Motor City Resin Casters, you know, and the guy who owns that and who actually makes these things is Jeff Ballard, and he's a pretty neat guy. I met him just before the Derby City shootout, the day before, you know, this year, and him and a few other guys from Michigan before they came, you know, they came down to sell their wares at the shootout, and I got to meet them the day before and hang out and talk and you know, eat something, and they're all a bunch of pretty neat guys. So, you know, here's the floor pan. You know, it's pretty well detailed. You know, it's going to be easy to fix up. You know, even the underneath is very well detailed. You know, we've seen the body. You know, it's got really crisp lines. There's not too much flash. I've seen more flash on a regular model kit from AMT than what's on this thing. Of course, you have a few places where you have to remove stuff, but you know, that's part of a resin. There's no glass that came with this, which is okay because all the glass is flat, and you know, I'd rather cut up a 2-liter bottle than have to pay extra for him to produce glass. So I'd rather not have the glass. I'd rather cut up a 2-liter bottle and save a few extra bucks on the kit. Here is the decals. And it's got enough decals to make 2 versions of this Jeep, you know, the male Jeep, the all-white version, and the blue and white version. And it's got the different years. You know, it's got the more modern United States Postal Service emblem, and then it's got the vintage one, you know, from the 70s and stuff. And I'm going to go with the old 70s look, the blue bottom with the white top. I just think that's cool. And I noticed in looking at the writing on the decal sheet that it's the decals were made by Chris Morgan of Morgan Automotive Detail or something like that. He's another really cool guy, and you know, I guess he fixed these up for Jeff and his Motor City Resin company here, you know. But that's pretty neat. And those guys do often work together and collaborate, so that's probably why their kits come out really nice. Here's the chassis. And you know, the chassis is going to need quite a bit of cleaning up, but you know, I've said this before in reviewing other resins that, you know, that's the nature of a resin. You know, it's not going to be perfect. It's a good basis to start with and do what you need. Just so happens that these guys are almost spot on right away. Here is the front grill piece, the typical DJ5. Keep wanting to say CJ, but it's a DJ. You know, that makes the Postal Jeeps different than all the rest. You know, here it comes with the stock steel wheels, and it has some plain Jane tires. I may go with different rear tires, something with a little more meat on it, a little more knobby, you know, more of a mud and snow style, because it's just when I was a kid I remember those male Jeeps going around with some knobbier tires. You know, these are represent Firestone tires, and you know, I'm not sure exactly what the real male carrier Jeep, the fit, you know, had of the rims, the front and the back, and these tires are so awesome that more than likely I'm going to use these. But I don't know, I'm just thinking that naturally they should be taller, you know, taller tires more. I'm not for sure. Okay, so here we have the seat base, you know, for that would go here, I reckon, you know. And then here is the seat, you know, and here is one of the doors. You know, the outside is very smooth, and here on the inside of the door you have a groove, which, you know, obviously I've already played with this. You know, I'll flip this around. You have this anyway, you have this groove here, and that there goes over that groove and slide. You know, there's really nothing to make it slide. I've been looking at it and trying to figure out how I can make it slide. It's not like a regular hinge on a rail. You know, the door may stick out a little bit more than what it does here. You know, so I can get the rail to work. But you know, on the real Jeep, you have the rail is actually on the roof, and the bottom is more or less a guide. So the door's weight is kind of held up a little bit by what's on the side, but the the rail part is at the top. And so I may see what I can do to create some sort of rail system for the door and everything on this. You know, that will probably be what takes the longest on this project whenever I get to it. And here's the other door. And again, you know, they're very cleanly molded, very smooth. It's going to be a joy working with this. You know, one of the things about resins is always having to all the huge amounts of cleanup that you have to do, you know. Now, I like these guys and they're pretty cool, but, you know, I'm not going to hold back and not speak my mind completely. Right here is the fender lights. Now, I have yet to seen a DJ5, you know, with round marker lights. All of them have been square except for the very, very early ones, which basically looked like a CJ5 and wasn't enclosed like, you know, the DJ5s. So, you know, I'm going to see how or what I can do to make square orange lights for the fenders rather than use these round ones. And here, this is pretty cool, and I'm probably going to use it as a base idea or whatever. This mirror with the arm to make an aftermarket mirror and arm, because and then here you have the little what do you call the clasps that hold the hood down, and I can find those aftermarket and made out of rubber or metal. That would be really cool. So I'll probably go aftermarket on that. All right, now I have this other little piece, this other little packet here. Dump this stuff out of the packet if I can. There we go. So here we have, that is an alternator, you know, and this is actually pretty accurate because those alternators did look more like this than what you see in typical model kits. So I'll probably use their alternator. That looks right. You know, here again we have what looks to be up here by my thumb is the fuel pump, you know, the fan blade and the water pump, you know, and timing covers and stuff. And of course the radiator and the steering wheel. Here we have the what looks to be a power steering pump. Now, I don't know. I'm going to have to do some research. But I'm thinking these didn't come with power steering. I don't think a DJ5 had a power steering unless this is something else and I don't realize it. But that looks like a Mopar style power steering pump. And then here we have, you know, the belt drive, you know. And here I don't even see a provision for a power steering pump. So that might just be an extra piece thrown in here. Here is the intake manifold for what looks to be a one-barrel carburetor. Here is that's a valve cover. Use the resin motor. I think I can clean that up and make it look really, really good and convincing. And here, this is one of the things that sort of bums me out, is the dash. Now the dash, I'm going to be honest with you, it is a right-hand dash. But that's a CJ5 dash. That's not a DJ dash. You know, and the reason why I say that is a DJ, they didn't have a glove box on it, and they didn't have an instrument panel that went on the dash that held the instruments. It was just one solid piece of metal. They didn't have I don't know if you want to call this a bracket or a grommet here. They just had a notch at the bottom where the steering column went through. They didn't have anything like this. And then, you know, the speedometer would be more over here, and then you had your little switches, and all of it was cut into the dash. Even though this fits really nice in there and it looks good, it's
not really for a DJ, it's for a CJ, you know. And I guess if you wanted to build a right-hand CJ5, this would be cool. And this is the front axle. Remember, these male Postal Jeeps were only two-wheel drive. They were not four-wheel drive. And then you have your front and rear suspension and your shock absorbers. And I don't know where I guess I'm missing one. I probably lost it. I'm sure it came with it. I probably just misplaced it. In fact, there it is. It's hidden over there. And then here's the other ones. But again, you know, this is a really cool resin kit. You know, there's a lot of things that can be done to it and added to it to make it more exciting. You know, the little top, the little cover that goes over the vent here, you know, that would be easy to create. You know, what this kit may be lacking to some people is easily scratch built, is easily made. These Jeeps in real life, they weren't that difficult or complicated, you know, and just having the body and having the right shape and all that is pretty awesome, you know. I'm definitely going to open up the rear door, and I'm definitely going to do what I can to, you know, create some mail for the inside, you know, maybe a couple in scale plastic model boxes, you know.